Good morning, everybody. So many of you this morning. This is wonderful. And welcome. I'm Reverend Karyl Huntley, and I would especially like to welcome everyone who is here for the first time or back after a long time. We have here at the corners of the room people from our newcomer team, our membership team, that's the same thing, and they have a packet of information about our community, and in that packet is a little blue card like this. If you fill that out and give it back to them, you'll get some things, like a letter from me, and immediately you'll get this little book, How to Speak Science of Mind, and it's very readable and wonderful. So all you need to do is raise your hand if you're here for the first time and would like our packet. So anybody here for the first time that would, don't be shy. There's one, yay. There's another one, awesome. Keep your hand up till you get your little packet, okay. Welcome, and I'd love to meet you personally. So here we are with our 2017 theme about values. A values-based spiritual living, and every week we look at 3 different values, and you are encouraged to find a value that you like. It doesn't have to be any of these 3, but on your bulletin here there's a little place for you to say living my values, and you could just say, you know, I really need to work on kindness this week because people have been unkind to me, so I want some kindness and I can generate it, something like that, and then just see what happens. So we have a report here. It's an anonymous report. The value is sharing, and specifically it's sharing the road. And this involves the Highway 37 closure and the detour to Atherton Avenue, and how some cars cannot get through because there's too many cars going in the places where there aren't lights. So this person, remembering our values and remembering sharing, stopped and probably annoyed many people behind her, but many other people got to go in, and this is what this person said. For a total of about 60 seconds of my life, I got to give a dose of good feeling to 10 plus people. So there you go, very wonderful. This is one of the things we are actually providing for you if you would like to use these values. This is the wonderful Stairway to Enlightenment done by Jet Walker, and at the bookstore you can, these are sample values, you can put them on the steps, a little write-up about how you can do it, and we would love to hear how each one of you is using this. This month our theme is diversity and inclusivity. So that means that the inclusivity of the infinite presence that we call God really is never ending. It is all encompassing. It includes everything in the goodness of God. So the diversity, all the many manifestations of God are included in the allness of God, and all this month we are trying to hold, especially, of course, those aspects of God that, you know, are real problems for us. And it's us that has the problem. You know, God does not have the problem of including everything. So today we're talking about how we judge ourselves, and how we have a lot of places inside of us that we don't really like, and how we handle that, you know. Actually, the first song we sang, I Love Myself the Way I Am, and all about the rage and the fears and the tears and loving ourselves anyway, that is the message. That's why that song was chosen. And then the song that Suzanne chose is perfect about being inclusive of ourselves. So this is a talk, I'm going to preview it, that you might not feel so good in parts of it, but you will feel very good at the end of it, okay? Will you all hang in there with me? Good. Nobody leave. All right. So the values that we're holding today are, first of all, of course, self-awareness, because we have to be self-aware in order to find those places. The other ones are accountability, and then, of course, compassion. So the experience of oneness within ourselves is what we're striving for, including not one of the selves in there, not the misbehaving little 5-year-old or the experimental teenager or the unskilled worker that started out and the business failed, whatever. All those parts of us are worthy of loving. So the first step to knowing and accepting others, which is a part of inclusivity, is to love and accept ourselves. Now, for some people, we have to love ourselves first. For some people, it's easier to love other people first, but the idea is to love everybody. Me and you. So you can, and you would say you and me, like that. So nobody's going to reach enlightenment, the top of those stairs, and say, well, I love almost everybody. But I have maintained a healthy self-hatred for parts of myself and about 10 other people. No, we're not going to be able to do that. We're not going to do that. So the idea about self-awareness is that knowing, as it says in the song, we are perfect, whole, and complete in essence. And there are places that don't express that perfection yet. Anybody have any of those places? Is it just me? Okay, a few of you. All right, good. So we call those places flaws sometimes. I like to call them a couple of other things. I like to call them unskilled places where we immediately go to anger, or we immediately go to being self-centered, or we immediately go to being impatient. And it just involves conflict around us, and then we feel bad. Another word that I use for that is unhealed places. So maybe as a little one, you were told that you're worthless, or that like the baby when the baby's sleeping and rocked in the arms of God, and they just get to be a toddler, and all of a sudden they're hell on wheels, right? And if you were told that, you have perhaps held that, and that's a lie. So that is an unhealed place. And in order for us to accept and include the diversity of all of us inside, we have to love all those places. So that's what we're looking at today, is the unhealed places within us to reveal the underlying perfection. So as metaphysicians, anybody that's been in here for a while, when we talk about being perfect, whole, and complete, and we hardly ever talk about guilt and sin and recrimination and self-condemnation, we never talk about those things as being good things. So when you feel those things, when you feel guilt, or when you feel self-recrimination, at one step along the way, we try to bury them because we're perfect, whole, and complete, so we can't feel those things. But have you noticed that the unskilled places or the unhealed places are still there? And they rear up sometimes at the most inopportune moments. So we still have the disappointed parts that have not been heard or included. And we still have buttons that when activated, we act like a crazy person. Or we wake up at 3 in the morning and we have fear and can't go back to sleep. So if we're pressed for that, if we say, all right, describe that right there that you want to bury, right there, we feel broken. We feel like the perfection is a lie, or that it's unavailable to us. And we don't like that feeling, so again, we try to hide it, but it's not working so well. Much more better to be broken open, to just let it go and be broken open. So this then is the title of the talk. Is that the sweetest thing? The blessings of being broken open. So I have a couple of quotes. One is from Vance Havner. I don't know who he is, but he said something very wise. He said, God uses broken things. It takes broken soil to produce a crop, broken clouds to give rain, broken grain to give bread, broken bread to give strength. It is the broken alabaster box that gives forth the perfume. So what he's saying there is that being broken open revives us in a way that keeping everything hidden never does. Rumi says, the wound is the place where the light enters you. So I just want you to look at the altar. This was done by Mark Cooper today, and there's a broken pot with the light coming out of it. And then that pot turned over. That's the stuck person. That's the broken person that isn't broken open yet. And look, still the light is trying to get out. It's trying to get out. So to be even more obvious, here's an image of the feeling of being broken, of hiding, of holding on to oneself, to not accepting that there's any possibility of growth, but being stuck and self-critical and just feeling dejected and that there's no life there. There's no, in this image, something has to happen, or that is a stuck person. And contrasting that to this. This is us being cracked open. It's a statue, but it says what I'm trying to say perfectly. That when we crack open, and that's like just giving up on trying to hide the places that need growth. We just give up on that, and we say, yeah, I've really got some work to do. And that breaking open does a couple of things. It lets the light in, kind of like Easter. We're coming up on Easter, and you know how sometimes when you color hard-boiled eggs, they don't look like they're cracked, but they are cracked, and then the ink, the paint, the dye gets into those cracks in a heavier line of color. That's the idea of having a crack in us, that the divine light can get in and the divine light can get out. So we are actually broken open. So Jean Houston writes about this in her book, The Search for the Beloved. And this is in a chapter called The Sacred Wound. And when we are facing what is unpleasant to us about ourselves, it really feels like we are ripping the Band-Aid off of a wound, as we've tried our very, very best to keep it closed. We've tried to keep it under wraps. We've tried to keep it invisible, and it's not working so well. And so we rip it open, and it hurts. So she writes, the wounding becomes sacred when we are willing to release our old stories to become the vehicles through which the new story may emerge into time. When we fail to do this, we tend to repeat the same old story over and over again. Soul making requires that you die to one story to be reborn to a larger one. So the story that we are wanting to die to let go of, is either the lies that have been told to us by our family, or the lies that we have told ourselves that we just aren't fixable. The operative word in all of this is open, because that means we are movable, we are teachable, we are flexible. And so it means that we establish an ease with declaring shortcomings. It's kind of like that's our learning edge, and so we lean into it. In the textbook, Dr. Ernest Holmes writes this. And this is actually in the very back of the book when he is describing in metaphysical terms the teachings of the New Testament. And this is about a verse that is about confession. This is complete removal and erasure of all mistakes. How could it be different? God is of pure eye and perfect mind. He is perfect spirit. When we enter this spirit and bear our souls to its great light, we loose our troubles and are healed. The confession of sins or mistakes helps us to let go of troubles and to feel that the universe holds nothing against us. So that's what we're looking for. And by confession, we're not meaning that you emphasize that whole something that some of us have come from about being sinners. But we are aware that growth is needed. So I have a growing edge, and in fact, it's been my growing edge for some time. I think I've made a little bit of headway on it, but I still need to work on that, and everybody in leadership knows it. And the shorthand is that Karyl is a people pleaser. That's kind of abrupt, but it's actually true. Ceci is always telling me, you have got to learn to say no. So what I realize happens is I do love to be loved. I do not like to be judged or criticized. That's true for everybody, but anyway. So what happens when I do not tell the whole truth, or when I couch things, or when I pretend it's a yes instead of a no, that's when things get all bollocksed up. And that's when I have to redo things. Or that's when people really get mad. And so the idea, if I'm unsafe, if I am not completely forthright, and I know that. And so you have my permission to say to me, are you trying to please me now, or is there another answer? You don't have to do that, and it's my job to do, but I'm just trying to tell you here that I know how this works, and you can tell that it's a place in me that I'm not glib about, so I'm with you on this. But what I know about this image, about this statue, is that she's cracked, but she's not falling apart. That is a whole being right there, looking pretty darn powerful. So I'm not falling apart. You're not going to fall apart when you face your lessons. And so shall we continue with how we do this? All right. So this is how to open up. This is going to be like the worst part, all right? Then we're going to get a lot happier. Because the first thing is, your choice is to hit bottom. Now, in order to open up, it's good to find a safe person to work with. Safe people over here, the practitioners. And me, I can take people's growing edges. The 12-steppers really know how to do this in taking an inventory. So hitting bottom is any level of discomfort. It's not the base bottom. It's not, like that poor guy in the street. It is your personal bottom where you say, this is not my experience anymore. This is not my experience or the experience of my beloveds anymore. I am going to work on healing this. That can be your bottom, whatever it is. The next is admit shortcomings. So years ago, we had a speaker series, and this was an author. I believe she was an Amish woman who had a book about quilts, and I can't remember her name. But what I do remember is in her presentation, sort of as a throwaway line, she said, well, I'm really motivated by fear, so blah, 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 and I do this. And it was so non-judgmental of herself. It's just like, I have to watch out for myself because fear is active in my life, and so I have to overcome it and do this and this and this. But she was so easy with it. And so admitting shortcomings, when you can get to admit your shortcomings as sort of matter of fact, and you can tell I have a little work to do on that. I wasn't really matter of fact with my shortcomings, but when we get to our shortcomings where we can just say, yep, this is it. This is what I'm working on, and that's me. It's really freeing, And then this is another biggie. It's choose to be vulnerable. So at first, it can be very scary to undefend yourself. But it is the only way to learn that God is our ultimate safety. We cannot keep the edges together by ourselves. We cannot do it. And so in order to be vulnerable, the strength has to come on the inside, not the shell on the outside. It's the perfect image of that statue, where the light is the strength on the inside. And there's nothing on the outside. It's just strength on the inside. So that is really freeing when you can get there. So just to reiterate here, these are the behaviors that we don't want, all right? This is keeping us defended, scared, stuck, and separate, and these are behaviors that don't work. And the first one is denial. Now, denial is refusing to look at your issue. I would call it a problem. Refusing to look at your problem. In fact, what you say is, there's no problem. There's no problem. So when you look at our values, there's no chance for self-awareness, there's no chance for accountability, and there's no chance for compassion when you're in denial. The next thing to avoid is projection. Projection is blaming somebody else for what you know that you are doing. And so what you say to yourself there is, for example, there's dishonesty somewhere in this relationship and it must be you. And so as denial was, the issue was there is no problem. In projection, it's there is a problem, but it's not me. It's you. That's a stuck place. Nothing's going to change there. Pain is going to keep on happening. The next one to avoid is justification. This is giving a reason as to why you're stuck and unable to grow. There's a reason that I'm this way, that I got to stay this way. And so the quote is, that the attitude is, there is a problem, but it's not my fault. I just get caught up in the energy. Anybody, does that, no, nobody does that. The next is defense. There is an armor so strong around me that I can't hear you, I can't see you. I cannot, it's like you were talking a foreign language to me. There is no way that what you're saying is going to get into me. And it is, I see no problem here. It's like, oh, I see no problem because I'm like this woman here, like this. And then finally, if we keep doing all these things, we are mired in self-hatred. And what really happens when we dare to look at it at 3 a.m., our feeling about ourselves is, I am so terrible, I cannot address this problem at all, I am in it for life, and this is the way it is. And that, my darlings, is being stuck on the street like that poor first guy. No chance of the light within or without impacting you. But now we're going to shift, and it's going to start getting a lot better, because we're going to talk now about the power of confronting shortcomings. So this is just the beginning. I mean, if you have not done a lot of work on yourself, or if you've done some, but you still have some areas that you know that I've kind of pushed on a little bit this morning, simply acknowledging them is the first step, because then comes the work of change, all right? And that's another whole set of talks and lessons. But the first is to say, yes, my behavior is unskilled. Let me see how I could change that. That's what you start with. And what happens is that you open with this to human support and divine guidance. I'm telling you that if you go to any of these practitioners and if you say, the pain that she talked about this morning, I've got, and I have no idea what to do about it. They actually don't know what to do about it either, but God does. And they will pray into that so that there is movement in your life. So when you open to admitting unskilled places, you open to human support and divine guidance, and another wonderful thing happens. There is no bullseye on you anymore. Nobody can come at, when it's like there's no there. When you say, oh yeah, that's true, I need to work on that, and I'm going to take a look at that. They can't come at you anymore. You know, it is a peacemaking, honestly, a peacemaking activity. And also, spirit is activated in the textbook. It says, the universe holds nothing against us. No matter how many mistakes we have made, we are still perfect beings within, and the within may become the without, if we will carefully train ourselves to listen to the inner voice of truth, which speaks to us in our moments of quietness and solitude. So there is help on the way. The next is that you learn to feel safe in vulnerability. Being undefended is being totally free. That is absolutely the truth. That when you can't, when there's no place when there's no button to push, you are absolutely totally free. There's a verse in the book of Romans in the Bible where it says, cast off the garments of darkness and put on the armor of light. That's what that statue was about. Casting off the garments of darkness and putting on the armor of light. The armor of light is the protection of God and your own protection based on your own vulnerability, your safety in vulnerability. Because light lets the world in and lets you out, but there is sort of it's a divine protection. If something tries to come at you that is not of peace and tranquility, it is sort of bounced back by that armor of light. It can't penetrate. So learning to feel safe in vulnerability, and you know, that's why I said to go to a safe person, first of all, to talk about the growing edge for you or the painful, unskilled parts, because you want to feel vulnerable with somebody that's safe the first time. Then you can just open up and just say, you know, this is who I am, this is where I'm growing, and I'm right along with the rest of you here. Then what happens is that compassion fills our heart for ourselves and for others. Compassion is the natural outcome of a place inside that needs healing and accomplishes healing. That is the natural product of a healing, because you know what you went through to find it and to heal it. And so when you see it in somebody else, you can say, oh, wow, that hurts. And you are in compassion naturally. So I want to conclude with a poem by Rumi. And it's called The Guest House. And each one of us is the guest house. Rumi writes, this being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So, here are our values for today. I love these values. Self-awareness, accountability, and compassion. So just reflect for a moment on how powerful these lessons are this year based on values. If you only came this Sunday and never returned and took these values into your life, you would be a center of world peace. You yourself would be a little planet that emanates world peace through self-awareness, accountability, and compassion. So I'd like to ask the practitioners to surround the room as we pray. As we turn within and acknowledge that the light of God is everywhere present. And most especially today, the light of God is within me and within each one of us here. And it is twinkling out of us. No matter what our level of self-awareness, accountability, or compassion is, just like those little lights that are coming out from under that overturned vase, our light is flowing out of our eyes, our hands, and our heart. And so, I claim for each one here that a growing edge, an unhealed place, or an unskilled behavior is identified, and with the accord, with the yes of whichever hearts speak it, the light is magnified. The healing doesn't even have to have happened yet. It is the intention for the healing to take place that allows the power of God to go to work in each life, guiding, directing, piecing together, loving us into wholeness, so that the light is blinding as it moves from us into the world that is longing for the light that each one of us has, longing for that love and understanding that will heal all of the conflict. And so today is a good day for healing. Today is a good day for feeling good. Today is a good day for giving God free rein in our life to heal each one of us into wholeness. This I give to the law. The law has it. The law is making it. All each one of us has to do is say, yes, do me, do me, do me. And healing is upon us. I give my thanks and claim it. And so it is. Amen.